Despite gaming being a rather straightforward hobby, you sit down, you turn the game on, you focus up for a while, and then you stop. Gamers around the world have interestingly all developed some of the same habits. Now, these habits make sense while others completely are counterintuitive, and yet we all do them without thinking. Welcome to the channel, everybody. Chaos here today. We're going to go over gaming habits that I'm talking to you, are 100% guilty of. And obviously, you're not a bad person for doing any of these, and they're really completely harmless. I just think it's very interesting that despite all of us being individual human beings with our own brains, we've all strangely developed the same little quirks when we're gaming. Let me know which of these you're the most guilty of. Drop a like. Be guilty of turning those notifications on. And the first one is easy. It's saving multiple times. Autosave, I mean, come on, one of the best inventions ever made, but I do think it's a little funny how absolutely no gamers trust it. Autosave has been part of the gaming industry for a couple decades now, but if we're invested in a game that we are playing, we are going to make 1000% sure that our progress is not lost. Now, despite the game autosaving, we'll manually hit the save button and then we'll hit it again and possibly even a third time just to destroy any chance of this run getting thrown in the trash. Now, I get why we do it, I do. But I think we all need to admit, it's probably a little goofy. It's a little on the goofy side of gamer behavior. The next one, always checking the scoreboard. Are you competitive? Multiplayer games are all about trying to be the best. I mean, you're trying to beat the best of the other people out there, right? Slowly climb your way to the top of the leaderboards, but how many times do you hit the scoreboard button in the middle of a multiplayer game like Call of Duty? How often does it actually get you killed? Now, a lot of people, myself included, have a bad habit of hitting the scoreboard button, checking my KD, running around for a few seconds without shooting anyone, and then checking the scoreboard again. Why? I don't know. Am I expecting something to have changed? Do I really think I figured out the magic formula to kill people in complete secrecy? No. I don't know why we do it, but we do it. I mean, I know in COD multiplayer, I check the scoreboard constantly. Even if I haven't done anything to upgrade on the scoreboard, I do it. Or maybe I got one more kill and I forgot. Does that really constitute another scoreboard check? Probably not, but I do it anyway. Why? I don't know. I know we all do this. Item hoarding. If you're playing an RPG or open world action game, there's a good chance that there's some kind of crafting system in this game, or perhaps there's a mechanic where your weapons break and you need to carry extras. So if you're playing one of these games, there's a pretty good chance you've been constantly hitting the maximum carry limit because you refuse to drop anything you haven't used. When the game world is big, it can be tough to let go of random items you find because you never know when you're going to need them. If you decide to drop those random yellow herbs, what if you ended up needing them for crafting an hour later? If you dropped your spare swords, what if your current sword breaks in the next fight? Item hoarding is pretty common as a problem in the gaming world, and I get it. I mean, you had the real world capability to carry hundreds of pounds of worth of stuff with no effort. Wouldn't you just carry around everything with you as well? Of course you would. In the same vein, upgrading everything equally. Speaking of open world games and RPGs, these kinds of experiences also usually come with skill trees or at least upgrade systems. But am I the only one who frequently finds themselves upgrading skills one at a time? I want to make sure each stat is equal. Instead of comparing and contrasting the different styles or experimenting with a new build, I often find myself doing one upgrade in each category before upgrading or anything else a second time. I mean, I want to keep every single skill equal. I guess it's good to have a balanced character build, but it's probably a little silly to be this strict with a leveling system, and yet, I'm guilty of it. The next one is pretty funny. The gamer lean. Now, if you're having a tough game or you really want to crank up your skills, it's time to adjust your sitting position and lean the heck forward. It's been scientifically proven that leaning into your monitor actually makes you play better, so it's no shock that everyone does this when they're about to start trying. And you know what the best part of the gamer lean advantage is? It's not real. It's placebo. There's no science or anything, but if you believed it for a second, I don't blame you, because I probably did too. Emoting at bad times. We've all done it. Emotes, pretty popular feature in multiplayer games, and they do a great job of helping you communicate without talking. They've also given us a ton of nice alternatives to the teabag, which that helps spice things up. However, doing an emote leaves you a bit more defenseless than 3 quick crouches, and most everybody has some experience when you get shot in the back while dancing on their latest kill. Let us know your story in the comment section, be it Fortnite, Overwatch, or finishing moves in Warzone. Pre-animated emotes and takedowns can easily be the death of you, and there's a few things more embarrassing than actually getting caught in the act. Actually, this next one is pretty embarrassing. Talking to the screen. Now, it's normal to talk to yourself when you're deep in thought. When a game is providing us with a tough puzzle or a powerful group of enemies, even the most tight-lipped people will start muttering to themselves. They'll try to verbalize the best strategy for their next attempt, or Perhaps a clever insult to throw at the digital enemies who don't actually exist and can't hear you. Talking to yourself isn't that weird. But even if you're someone who never does it, you've probably caught yourself talking to a video game when it's really testing your mind or your patience. Don't worry, it's relatively normal, I promise. You're only a little bit weird like me. This next one, probably my worst on this list. Reloading too much. First-person shooters will almost always tell you how much ammo you have in your gun's current magazine. Aside from this being a tad on the unrealistic side, it also feeds into this bad habit that most of us have, where that number must always be at its highest. If you have 28 rounds left in a 30-round mag, you have to click the reload button, right? You have to even it out. Doesn't matter if you're in the middle of a firefight, doesn't matter if enemies are coming your way, your ammo counter must be full at all times. How many times have you actually gotten killed while reloading when you didn't need to? I can't even count. For me, it always makes you feel a little bit stupid, but there's a similar habit that could be even dumber. Not reloading enough. I'm sure you've all watched people playing a first-person shooter. Maybe they're not super familiar with the genre, so they don't reload as frequently as they probably should, which constantly gets them killed in the middle of their reload animation when their ammo count hits 0 for the 10th time. Then, there's also the people who play a lot of first-person shooters and become over-aware of their compulsive reloading habits, resulting in them convincing themselves that 10 bullets in an assault rifle is totally enough for their next engagement. Then they have the nerve to act surprised when they get shot in the middle of their reload animation. There's a fine line between reloading too much and reloading too little. And I'm sure one day we will all find the balance. The sooner you stop obsessing over that ammo counter in the corner of the screen, the better. And I am definitely talking to myself here. Skipping the side quest. Bad, bad, bad. Sometimes we just want to get to the end of the main story as soon as possible. But this eagerness to beat the game can oftentimes make it harder for us and ironically make our run take longer than it would have if we would just have done the side quests. Open world games and RPGs often let you go ahead with the main story at your own pace, but you're supposed to use that downtime to do side quests. You're supposed to level up your character. If you only do the main missions, you're just going to have a harder time with the later stages of the game, whereas doing some side missions would not only let you level up your character some more, but it could possibly give you new items to make the late game easier. Side missions also give you more time to get used to the gameplay itself, which is, let's be real, surely going to make the final boss a less of a threat. And yet, millions of gamers are zooming through main missions and ignoring the game's offerings. That's their loss. And on that same vein, skipping the main mission. Now, some of you may fall into the main story only camp of open world gameplay. Others, they're completely on the opposite side of the spectrum. For every main mission master, there's a side quest superhero just running around and doing absolutely everything they can in every area of the game before proceeding with the main story. Now, unsurprisingly, this can sometimes make the gameplay of the main path a little underwhelming when we finally decide to do it. After all, grinding side missions for 20 hours in an RPG will do some amazing things to your character stats, and if you haven't touched the main mission in a while, you're probably going to breeze right through. Everyone has their own approach to open world games and RPGs, but I do think it's interesting that there's so many people who are completely dedicated to either side missions or main missions. Which camp do you fall in? Let me know in the comment section. This next one, this is bad. Don't skip cutscenes. I know, cutscenes are so boring, right? I mean, sure, they're an integral part to the plot, and you need to watch them in order to understand what's going on in the game, but so often these little movies just keep us away from what we'd rather be doing, which is mashing buttons. Now, some games have been able to keep our interest through the cutscenes, and I'm obviously not saying cutscenes are bad, but sometimes we just want to get to the next gameplay section. Now, obviously, this creates a problem with the understanding of the story, but if that's the price for salvation, some gamers may see it as worth it. And still, if you skip the cutscenes or don't pay attention to the dialogue, you're not allowed to then complain about not being able to understand or follow the story. Skipping the cutscenes is totally illegal according to gamer law. You just need to take responsibility for your actions when you do it. Yeah. Running into closed doors. I can't be the only one, I hope not, who usually finds myself running into doors as I'm waiting for them to open. Yes, when you sprint at a door in certain games, you can burst right through them and blast it off its hinges. But sometimes you have to wait for a door to open on its own, and when we're in that situation, you can often find us sprinting full speed at the locked door, so that way we can get to the next room at the first possible second. So imagine if you did this in real life. You know how in video games you can continue running in place when you're against a wall? How weird would it be if real life was the same way that worked? And speaking of mashing buttons, which I said earlier, mashing buttons. You know, hitting the reload button 50 times doesn't actually make it go faster. It doesn't. You know, quick time events usually just need you to hit the button once, right? Not multiple times. You know, tapping X over and over again doesn't actually make the game load faster. It doesn't. Just making sure we're all on the same page here, you button mashers. And finally, breaking all the boxes and barrels. Video games seem to have way more boxes in real life, but who cares because you can break them all. Boxes are a nice quick way for a game to tell you should have been on the hunt for supplies throughout your experience with it, but when those boxes are the main way to get those supplies, you can bet every single one of them is getting smashed as soon as I see them. Heck, there could be no reward for smashing boxes, and I'll probably still run around and break every one of them with a smile on my face because I know eventually I'm going to find that treasure. Plus, there's just something satisfying about breaking things with no consequence. Maybe it's because the LEGO games trained us to destroy every possible thing in whatever game we're playing, or maybe it's just because we're all secretly wanting to break wooden boxes in real life, but absolutely every gamer is guilty of busting these boxes open whenever we can, and that kind of universal dedication is what gets at the last spot on today's list. There you go. Gaming habits you're guilty of, I'm guilty of, we're all guilty of. If you guys enjoyed this video, drop a like and I'll see you soon.